and I understand your level within IHA. When do you see the to be determined become a date, if only a proposed one in a plan? And the reason I asked that question, I'll use myself as an example. A quadruple bypass surgery. I've had a stroke. I'm type 2 diabetic, and I don't like hitchhiking to Kamloops for medical when I'm in medical distress. And so it's something a lot of the people who depend on medical have asked me, because it determines if and when they're going to move back to our village.
So yes, and that's it. Ensuring people have access is going to be important. The to be determined is something that we are needing to put a lot of focus into, which is why we're not coming forward with any concrete plans at this time. Scenarios that you're speaking about are ones that we're listening to and want to make sure that people feel safe in the community and they have access to that care when they need it. And really does have a little to do with that transport piece that is becoming a little bit of a monster, honestly, when we look at it at a provincial level. So working with Ministry of Transport and Health Connections through Northern Health as well.
Okay. And the second question, I'm not sure if you already said it, and I apologize if you did. Currently in Lytton, do we have a doctor on 24/7?
No physicians 24/7. We have just a primary care. So we have a primary care service for booked appointments Monday to Friday, between 6 and 7.5 hours a day.
Okay. Reason I asked that, sorry, and also lab techs and that was, like, I remember laying on the gurney down there in the emergency ward with a thrashing chest pain. And when that little needle took blood out of me and they said you didn't have a heart attack, it sure lifted a lot of stress off of me than being taken into Kamloops and worrying for 3 hours if I'm on my way out or not. Anyway, thank you for that. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, hearing none, I want to thank you both for your presentation. Oh, Vince Michelle has raised his hand. He has a question.
I think
Is that just out in the okay. Sorry, it's not a question. You're good to go.
Where is it? Hello, guys. My question is, when are we going to get a pharmacy in our little village here?
Thanks, Vince, for that. So this is something that's come up quite frequently in discussions that we've had. Interior Health is not, we do not have public access to pharmacies. It's not a service that the Interior Health does supply. It is done on a private basis by pharmacists that come to town to set up a business. This being said, this isn't something that we're just pushing off because we don't see it as our responsibility. This is still something that we need to make sure that we have access to, and those people in the community have access to. We're providing a primary care service that is handing out prescriptions for medications. It is difficult for us to provide those prescriptions when people don't have access to the medications that they need through a pharmacy. So we are continuing to work with the ministry and PHSA to find a fix for this, but currently we do not have one, but this is something that is on the table for discussion and we're trying to troubleshoot.
Okay, so there are no more questions from council, so that will conclude this portion. So we're now on to item 4, which is public comment.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of the public are now invited to comment on matters that related to the agenda. If you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on reactions at the bottom of your screen and then clicking raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and we will ask you to unmute yourself, and you will get a pop-up on your screen asking you to unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. I will give you a 30-second warning. At the end of 2 minutes, your microphone will be automatically disabled. So I have Noni on the list here. I'm asking her to unmute.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to address the item 7.2 on your agenda tonight, the contract award for official community plan process. While I understand that the process has been initiated prior to this stage of its implementation, it does seem like something a newly elected council will be very much responsible for. And with that in mind, I would ask that you consider questioning the recovery manager about other options besides the two that are offered for consideration tonight. The option 1 that you approve and the option 2 that you deny the contract. I'm really wondering if there is any other options that you might be able to consider, because in particular, if it's possible to defer the decision to the new council. If not, what steps in the process will be completed prior to the new council being in place? Why would they happen when the current council will not be in a position to see them through? Those are my 2 questions. The second thing is, I'm wondering about the statement that says the village's project team is in place and ready to continue with the recovery works in the village once approved. I'd really appreciate you clarifying which staff has left the village from the recovery team and who has replaced them, if anyone, or what the plans are to replace these people. There have been no public announcements that I have seen, but I have received notice by email that 2 members of the recovery team have left the village. And I would just like to finish by saying that as it stands now, the council's involvement in this official community, thank you, community plan was, how do we know if IBI is a good fit for our community when the selection was done solely by people who don't live in Lytton, who have never lived in Lytton, and don't plan on living in Lytton? Thank you.
Thank you. I have Edith Loring Luhanga. Go ahead, Edith.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm just trying to figure out my my Zoom here. So sorry, I was going to try to put on my video, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. So
good audio only.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm speaking on 2 items on the agenda: the awarding of the 7.2 official community plan contract and 7.3, the temporary village of Lytton office. In regards to the OCP, I'm asking you to please either choose number 2 on the options of the report to council from the recovery project manager, Matt Lane, or to table the following motion to the new mayor and council so that they can make the decision. We are 3 weeks away from the election, so I would encourage the council not to make such a huge decision that is going to bind the next mayor and council. The reasons why I'm asking you to do this tonight is, first, the timeline. Because the deadlines have already passed, holding up the OCP contract by another 1 to 2 months will not have dire consequences on the recovery of Lytton. The contract was to be awarded by August 15th, so we are already 1 month behind schedule. Surely another 1 to 2 months will not have dire consequences on the recovery. Second, in regards to the purpose of the RFP, it states in there that the planner is to develop an official community plan and bylaw which enables the village to plan, coordinate and manage the village's social, economic, environmental, and land use interests in both the short term and long term. Also, Schedule A states that the OCP will serve as a guiding tool for the municipal, institutional, residential, and commercial redevelopment activities. Surely, if the
30
OCP is to
seconds.
guide the next council, they should be involved in making a decision. And also, in regards to the scoring, there was 66 by IBI and 65 out of 80 by WSP. I think that those two are very close. And yet, if you look at IBI, their contract, their bid is almost 3 times what WSP quote is. In regards to the
And her time is up now. I've got one more speaker on my list. It's Willie.
Okay, you gotta listen to Willie, huh?
We're going to ask Willie to unmute.
Hello,
Go ahead.
I'm Willie Nelson, mayoral candidate for Lytton. I would like to address items 7.2 and 7.3 as well. I would like to question why this is being railed through in the last days of the current council. I would also like to ask what more authority does the current council have to pass these motions at this time? Have you listened to your constituents? All of the incoming candidates are against these motions. Has anyone taken bribes from IBI? You need to deeply consider how you will pass these motions today. I call for Jan Polderman to immediately resign. Thank you very much.
I have Denise O'Connor on the list.
Yes, I hope before my time states, I would like to just say that not all candidates believe that. Sorry. I'll start my presentation now. So I'm Denise O'Connor of 522 Fraser Street. Monday night of this week, I heard that a special council meeting was being scheduled. I was surprised it wasn't under news. There had been no council meeting since August 24th. That's 4 weeks ago. It's been too long between meetings, in my opinion, so I was pleased that this one was happening. My understanding is that special meetings are called when there's something urgent that can't wait for a regular meeting. Looking at the agenda, the only item I see of any urgency is item 7.1, new business property tax sale, which has a September deadline. At first look, I was pleased that you're getting on with things like the OCP and the village office, but at closer look, it brought up some serious questions. The OCP, I hope there's a good explanation why it's recommended that the OCP be awarded to IBI and not to WSP when there's over $185,000 difference and only 1 point difference in the evaluation points. All I have to go on is the chart, but I hope that you, the council, have more information before you make the decision. I was pleased to see the village office went out to tender, as did the OCP, but only the OCP is listed on the website for proposals. How did the village office get put out for tender? Interesting that only 2 companies responded. Both of them are local. I are working in the village now. I truly hope that mayor and council have enough time to digest the information for awarding these contracts. I hope they receive more information, not just what's been provided in the agenda package. Yes, the province gave the village $21 million, but I urge the mayor and council to be fiscally responsible and seriously consider the financial implications. We heard loud and clear from Raleigh Russell that there's no more money. Thank you.
Thanks. I have Joshua Lightfoot.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I too am concerned about 7.2 and 7.3. My preference is that the new council would decide on who they will be working with for the next 2 years. And although we don't want to slow down the process, I need to understand why, with only a 1 point difference, the company recommended is over 2.5 times the cost. I concur with Noni and Denise and Edith on their points. So I'm going to jump to 7.3, the contract for temporary office and fire hall, I see. Many years ago, we saw that site as a possible fire hall site, and I think it would prove to be a good spot to place that. But my concern is that a temporary office up by the cemetery will become the office for the next decade. And I think most of your contractors will agree that sometimes temporary buildings go in and they have a very long life. It's not a convenient location, not a walking location for those constructing downtown. The only reason I've heard that you want it up there is because you can get some infrastructure into the site. And so, yes, for the fire hall, that would make sense, but it needs to be accessible. It needs to be downtown. It needs to be the start of the hub, the downtown core. It would be
30
an
seconds.
affirmation that the village is coming back to life. And why not work with the TNRD and rebuild the office? If the site's cleaned up in the next month, because insurance monies are there, a new office downtown, a permanent office, would be a sign of hope, and it should be attainable in the next short term. So I ask you both of these motions to be tabled for the next council.
Okay, and I have Jennifer Thoss.
Jennifer.
Hi there, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm speaking from Tsawwassen, the traditional territory of the Tsawwassen First Nation, Musqueam peoples. I'm speaking tonight against 7.2 as well. I believe it would be in the community's best interest to leave that to the next council, who will be facilitating the official community plan, the implementation of the official community plan over the next few years. And I think this is a really important decision, and the people that will be working through that process should be making the decision on who is facilitating it. Currently, I don't really have enough information to know if the IBI is the best project manager for that, but I don't think any of the community does. And I think that we need the next council to make those decisions. Noni, Edith, and Denise, all of them had excellent presentations, and I concur with them on all of their points. In conclusion, I'm speaking against the proposed motion on the agenda 7.2. Thank you.
Your worship, I have no more speakers on my speakers list.
Thank you. So we are on to bylaws, policies, and resolution. I believe the CAO would like to speak to this matter.
Yeah, so the first item under 5.1 here is bylaw 726, 2022, the permissive tax exemption bylaw. Under section 224 of the community charter, it allows council to exempt lands or improvements or both from municipal property taxes. Currently, we have permissive tax exemption bylaw number 687, 2016, which provided tax exemptions for the years 2016 to 2021. And therefore, a new bylaw must be adopted for 2022. At the August 24th, 2022, Council adopted a permissive tax exemption policy number 2022-10 and directed to prepare the permissive tax exemption bylaw for 2023 only, and to implement policy number 2022-10 for the years 2024 and going forward. Staff has provided this bylaw for the purposes of the permissive tax exemptions for 2023 only, and will diarize implementing policy number 2022-10 for the years 2024 and beyond.
So the recommendation is that council resolve to introduce and read bylaw 726, 2022 for a first, second, and third time.
Councillor
So
Hayes,
moved.
What's up?
So Councillor Hayes seconds, so it's open now for discussion. I believe we do this every year. And so it's basically the churches and a few other places that are tax exempt. We provide a list.
So this is just a housekeeping deal, in other words.
Yes. I'm trying to say in a roundabout way. So are there any questions on any of the properties that are being exempted? Not hearing any questions. All in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
To take this?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So there is no correspondence for action. So we are on to new business. This is the property tax sale. It's in order of council. I believe the CAO would like to speak to this as well.
Yeah, so this one is for the 2022 local government tax sale. One quick note, just for clarification, the last sentence in the financial impact section, note that the trailers were also destroyed in the 2021 wildfire. The trailers were actually not destroyed. They are currently still standing. And so these amounts are not likely to be written off. But basically, as the village is in the early stages of recovery and the optics and public support of a tax sale at this time are questionable. So what we're recommending is that council resolves to direct staff to request an order in council or a MIVA, which stands for Municipalities Enabling and Validation Act, to authorize the waiving of the Local Government Act requirement to conduct a 2021 or 2022 tax sale by the Village of Lytton. So just deferring that. Thank you.
Councillor Hayes, so moved.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
Does the owner have any plans for these trailers in the future?
Not unless they come back from the dead.
Yeah, I thought so. So eventually they will be removed or auctioned off, apparently, somehow.
Well, that's the $99 question is how.
Yeah.
Councillor Hay?
Yeah, Councillor, what happened a number of years ago that wasn't brought forward to council, the village ended up putting a lien on those two trailers in question. And the lien that went on them precluded getting a permit to move them from the Department of Transportation. And for the past, I'll say one of them probably 8, 9 years, the other one for about 6, 7 years, the owner of the property itself has been paying the utility bill. So the sale, they're gonna look at another way to get rid of them.
I think I know the trailers in question, and they're they probably have very little value in looking at them, and so as far as tax sale goes, we'd be hard pressed to get anything from them. And seeing as the owners did on one of them, at least, it's almost as if we need some other kind of motion or movement to get them out of there to conclude this problem.
It can't be done because once the lien is put on by the village, it's an act of the government. BC government has got to remove that, and we're looking at other ways. The Mobile Home Act in BC really protects owners of mobile homes and not so much the property owners.
I see. So we're
Thank you.
we're waiting on the provincial government, I guess, then.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we are now on to item 3, which is a contract award for the temporary municipal office and fire hall.
No.
Pardon? Oh, sorry. Oh, the contract award for the official community plan process. I guess we best get back to that one. Is that CAO Baker?
Thank you, Mayor Bolderman. So I just wanted to quickly introduce this one. I did approve this for the agenda here today, and the rationale for it really was we did vet through the applicants that had submitted on the RFP. And the real driver behind the official community plan and the bylaw that's associated with that official community plan, the real drivers of it are the residents in the community. And the residents in the community will not be changing as we go forward here. So in the essence of trying to maintain our schedule as much as possible, and in the essence of kind of making a bit of a point as to who was actually driving the process, that the residents will be driving it. That was the rationale for putting it on the agenda today. We've definitely heard a lot of opinions on this, and I believe that it will be we'll be discussing some additional options here, but I just wanted to throw that out there as to why it was being put on the agenda. And with that, I would ask that the recovery project manager, Mr. Lane, maybe give a brief overview of the report and the process that was gone through as we reviewed the proposals that were submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Baker. So I'll touch on the process itself for the RFP. The main focus that we were looking for with the proponents was the community outreach and engagement side of the entire OCP process. That was the main factor in what we were looking for, who was going to be engaging the community the most and the most efficiently through this entire process. Working through that with the large grading that we use for that. The rest of the scoring that you can see in the report is based on the quality of the team that's been identified, the experience and the history that those teams have working with communities such as Lytton and the Lytton First Nations, and then with the final piece being costing. So the evaluation is a mix of those components, with IBI providing the highest scoring proposal. So based on our evaluation and the evaluation review that we had completed with CAO Baker, we are identifying that IBI Group Professional Services is the highest ranking proponent through the RFP process. And I can answer any questions that Mayor and Council may have.
I have questions.
Go ahead, Councillor Egbert.
Is it true that no Lytton residents were involved in the selection process?
The selection process Correct. That was based through the evaluation team of Colliers project leaders and with review with CAO Baker.
I see. And that 1 point difference that equates to $190,000, that's a hell of a point. Is money not really a factor in this? It seems very strange.
Without getting into the specifics of a proposal by proposal basis, the scoring when it comes to the dollar value, there's a set amount of points. The lowest bidder gets full value points. All other bidders, their point value is based on a variance between their costing and the low bidder. So the larger the gap, the smaller amount of points. So in the event of one proposal being highly graded with a lower dollar or a higher dollar value versus a proponent that has a very low dollar value, the point difference could be made up in something such as that case.
Just as a comment, I think there's something to be desired in that method. That's quite a difference off of 1 point. But my final comment is how can an OCP be done right at this time when we don't have a demographic, and OCPs are based on demographics? We don't know who's coming back. We don't know how many. We don't know the businesses that are coming back. We don't know the businesses, we don't know the kind of employment we'll have in town. I mean, all these questions are what make up an OCP. They're used for the planning. And right at this moment, we probably won't know the demographics for Lytton for another year. So how can we put out a plan, start beginning a plan now when we can't come up with a solid demographic?
So the OCP process is a year-long process, at least. Throughout that process, there's been an outline for in-person and online community engagement sessions, demographic research. So there would be sessions held throughout either Lytton, Kamloops, other destinations to ensure that the most amount of residents would be able to be involved in the process through the entirety of the year-long project.
That's all the questions I have, but it's looking like a nay vote on my part if it comes up.
Councillor Hay?
Yeah, Councillor Hay, I'd like to make a motion the contract award for the official community plan process be tabled until the new council wants to address it.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay.
So Michelle, Melissa, that was an A?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, sorry. Maybe the yay and the nay were pretty close. I'm not sure.
No, I'm not sure if that was Councillor Gray.
That was me.
Did you vote nay?
I did. With everybody
Okay,
yelling at us to move things forward, I'm shocked and amazed that so many people are saying that we now have to stop.
Okay, just the reason I asked that is that it has to be recorded in the minutes that it is a nay vote. I am not questioning your vote at all. All I would like to say to our prospective council is you know, if they had asked or even inquired, I could have told them what the outcome was most likely going to be. Anyhow, we'll move on to the award for the number 3, which is a contract award for a temporary municipal office and fire hall. Would someone like to, CAO Baker, would you like to speak to it first?
Thank you, Mayor Polderman. I'll defer to Mr. Lane, the Recovery Project Manager on this one.
Thank you, CAO Baker. Thank you, Mayor Polderman. So the temporary office and fire hall site design builder, an RFP process was started for this works. Through that process, we were notified by 3 potential proponents, 2 of which actually provided bids for the works here. Through the evaluation process, evaluating past work and the available team and the actual design builder's availability, the scoring was completed that you can see here to determine the highest ranking proponent. Again, like the scoring for the OCP, there were several factors working through regarding understanding the project, experience, teams, proposed plan to complete the works, as well as the scoring being pricing being a factor. Through that, we've evaluated that MatCon underground utilities along with IBI was the highest graded proponent, and we are recommending moving forward with an award for the design builder here.
So would someone like to make the motion?
Councillor Hay, I
Second.
move
Yeah, you gotta make the motion first.
that a contract award for temporary municipal office and fire hall be tabled until the new council wants to address it.
Now you can second.
I'll second that, yes. But now that it's
Discussion?
just discussion, one of the reasons the fire hall should go forward is because we've been informed by the project manager that construction can't begin downtown until we have an active fire hall in operation.
I'd like to update you that our fire hall or fire department is considered operational at this moment. Okay?
Okay,
So
if that's the case, then no problem. But as I say, it'd be nice if our people had a sheltered fire hall. Yes.
well, would be.
I don't like to speak for other people, but I'm sure that the incoming council will take it as a priority to protect the town, same as we have.
And I'm quite sure they will also want to move ahead as quick as possible as well. You know, that has been our focus from day one, is to get people back into town. Unfortunately, it was not the 30th of September.
In speaking personally about that, the village office, the temporary village office, I am a supporter of the temporary village office, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the TNRD is helping us on funding with that. Very little cost. It's part of their insurance money, we've been informed, I believe. And so we're not wasting any money from the future. The town hall downtown will go ahead, as we've been informed, because that is also that is an insured building and will be replaced. So that has been our understanding since we began the idea of putting it up by the cemetery on a temporary basis. And I do too want to see a brand new village office downtown, and not just a temporary one up by the cemetery. So I don't think this is a major problem, but as you say, the next council will be pleased to handle it, and I'm glad.
Is there any further discussion?
I have a question about finances.
Go ahead.
So a great deal of this was going to be funded from various sources. It wasn't going to cost the village anything if we put it on that land. If there's now another delay,
is that going to affect that money?
Through the mayor, the delay should not impact the funding that we've already received and the access to those funds. Yeah.
So it's not a definite, it's a should.
I mean, I guess anytime that there's delays, there's always the potential for costs to increase over time. This is a relatively short delay, so I'm not anticipating that it should have any financial impacts right now.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Mayor Boldeman. It's Leslie Grew. I'm just checking to make sure that Mr. Ricard, Councillor Ricard is still the seconder, because he had seconded it before Councillor Hay had finished what his motion was. So I'm just double checking if there's still a mover and a seconder.
Yes, I second it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of deferring this recommendation for the next council?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are now on to item 4, the memorandum of understanding. This is the property remediation for the RCMP. CAO Baker, would you like to speak to this?
Mr. Lane?
I'll jump in on this one, Mike. That's okay.
Sure, James.
So probably for about 4 months, we've been working to try and get some sort of a support process in place to help the RCMP move forward with the remediation on their site. Around the same time, we started the MOU discussions with the insurers and the insured property owners. So we used a similar format that we did with that MOU process. The RCMP obviously have a number of procurement restraints around going direct award or getting this work moved rather quickly. So working with their procurement team, their capital and their facilities group, we determined that a MOU with the village, with the provision of it being a binding agreement, would be the most expeditious approach to moving their work forward. And so we had drafted an MOU, again, probably 3 or 4 months ago, and it's taken that long to work its way through the federal government and the procurement group within the federal government. We just received the signed version back through the RCMP about 10 days ago. And so there is not much room to, in my opinion, revise it or send it back without causing significant delays to the MOU agreement. And so as it stands right now, the dollar values that are attached to it, the $60,000 per lot, were the estimates that we had at the time. Whether they cost that much more or less, I think we'll have to determine that when the remediation is actually completed.
Question, James. I'm not sure if I should be asking it now. I should actually, would someone like to make the motion?
Councillor Hay, I'll make a motion that council approves entering into a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the RCMP for the purpose of engaging the Village of Lytton contractors to remediate 3 lots, 665 Main Street, 625 Main Street, and 666 Alonzo Way, for an amount not to exceed $180,000, with the funds to be initially drawn from the provincial government Community Recovery Fund contribution agreement for the 18.4 million and reimbursed by the RCMP as outlined on the memorandum of understanding.
I'll second.
If the cost goes, James, if it goes above 180,000, are they paying the difference?
As the way that the MOU is written, there wouldn't be a compensation for the difference, Mayor. I will note that the cleanup for the RCMP lots are already fully contemplated and they're already embedded in the MatCon contract. So there is no net financial loss to the village over and above what we're already paying for that work.
Okay, thank you.
So Councillor, hey, my question, Mr. High, is, and that's why I put the thing not to exceed. Because we do a memorandum of understanding that the contract says 180,000, then 185. I don't know where that 5 is coming from. So I just wanted to make sure that in our memorandum, because we'll be held to it by court, that's for sure. Okay? And I do believe, and I'll put this to you because my memory is not the best in the world, but our properties went above the 60,000. We've had a couple of increases through my favorite thing, what do we call them? My work order changes. So when I read this, we've gone through that exercise, so there won't be one of those coming in this month.
There will not. We've seen properties as low as $30,000 for cleanup and some over $100,000. So this is a mid-range for the work. The $180,000 will be paid to the village regardless of it being less than that or more than that through the federal government.
But the reason I put that in there is another 6 weeks, I don't want the new council beating at my door looking for the extra money. Thank you very
Understood.
much.
The impetus was really the speed of having the RCMP sites match the speed of the remainder of the recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's basically the same as the insured people's MOU?
It's essentially the same idea. It's obviously got some fundamentally different verbiage in it. But the idea is similar, that the insured properties did not have enough to cover them, and the grant is covering the shortfall in that financial position. We put a number in for the RCMP that we believe would cover the entirety of the remediation. Again, to be clear with everybody, I don't know if that will be the total financial position or if it'll be plus or minus that $60,000 per lot at this point until it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We are then on to item 5, infrastructure planning and repair for critical infrastructure. CAO Baker.
Mr. Lane, can you present this report, please?
Thank you, CAO Baker. Thank you, Your Worship. A request was presented to provide some information on the $4.3 million breakdown that'll be coming to the village through the $21 million provincial grant that has been approved for the village. And so this document that you look up in front of you shows a breakdown of costs that had been provided to the province towards the beginning of the recovery effort in order to capture as much of the anticipated planned work that we'd be looking at doing through water and sewer infrastructure repairs. There's a fairly wide range of work between water treatment operators, assessment, asphalt and concrete work, general water system and site support repairs. Through this item, I'm not sure if there's any specific questions that Mayor and Council may have regarding that $4.3 million.
I have a question on it. There's a $36,000 expense for as-built maintenance manuals and that. Have we got those yet?
Those should be finalized and with the village in the next, I would say.
We've been waiting for those since the 24th of May, 2019. And they were included in the original contract.
They have been. I had a meeting 2 days ago regarding them. I have seen the actual draft as-built, and they're being finalized and being prepared to be sent over.
So was there any explanation as to why it's taking over 2 years to provide them?
I don't have a brief explanation on that for yourself.
And while you were talking to him, did you discuss the liability issue regarding that particular contract?
That was not part of my discussions, no.
Well, believe me, I may be off council, but that question is gonna come back to you every meeting because I'm somewhat upset by this particular contract.
Understood.
Thank you. Councillor Hay?
Councillor Hay, I'll move the infrastructure planning and repair for critical infrastructure planning costs be tabled to the next council to be addressed when they so desire.
CEO Baker?
Just for clarification, there was no recommendation on this one. It was just to be provided for information.
Yeah.
We don't want a motion moved. Okay. Councillor Hay, I withdraw the motion.
So then we're on to the item number 6, I believe it is, the Village of Linton main telephone line. Or did I miss one here?
Oh, that's it. So item 6, the Village of Lytton main telephone line. This was just added on to the agenda to ensure that everybody was aware. The Village of Lytton main telephone line 250-455-2355 has now been reactivated.
Thank you.
Question. That's not a landline, is it? That's a 455 number. That went out with our, sorry. Is that a cell phone or a landline, do you know?
My understanding through the mayor is that it is a cell phone.
Okay.
Is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
So then we're on to item 8, which is a closed meeting. I don't believe there are any items for a closed meeting.
Correct.
Correct. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Councillor Hay, so moved.
Thank you. And thank you all for attending.
Good night.